Hey, it is Greg Milby, Kentucky's Heartland and Kentucky'sHeartland.com, and it is a time that I've been looking forward to. I want to introduce you to my running friend, Chief Jeremy Thompson, Elizabethtown Police Department. Welcome in, man.
Thanks
Glad
for
to
having
have
me.
you.
Good to be here.
It feels awkward that we're both not like real sweaty and wearing some really awkward looking running clothes.
Yeah, no, it's a little humid out there. You'd definitely be sweating this morning.
Yeah, what's more awkward, seeing me in regular clothes or you wearing the blue still? Has it because for those that don't know, Chief Thompson was with the Kentucky State Police for years, and seeing you in blue, I think it might have shocked people the other day in your swearing in. Has it adjusted a little more yet?
It's starting to feel normal, but it's going to be a little bit of a process, I think. As I was walking into the swearing-in ceremony, a couple of the guys that knew me from KSP walked up and said, "Man, you don't know how weird that looks to us." And I looked at them and laughed, and I said, "You don't know how weird it feels from the inside versus you looking at it from the outside." When I put it on the first time, my wife and kids looked at me and said, "What are you wearing?"
Yeah.
You know, because it was new, different.
Because our buddy Chris Denham made a joke about it during your swearing in, and for those maybe saw the live feed at Kentucky's Heartland, the joke has always been that the Kentucky State Police walk on water.
Sure.
So he brought you some life-saving flotation devices, since now you are the chief of police for the Elizabethtown Police Department.
Right.
That was kind of funny.
It was funny.
So is that really a stigma between the state police and county police and city police?
You know, it can be sometimes. I think years ago it was a little more dated. There was this sense that KSP felt they were better than everybody else. But in my career, genuinely, we've worked really well with our local law enforcement. You know, and I've said this several times. I sometimes feel like I'm a broken record, but I use Chief Land as an example. He and I started within months of each other back in the 90s. He was with the city, I was with state police. And our current mayor, when he was with the sheriff's department before he was a trooper. And the three of us would have dinner at 2, 3 in the morning, which was on third shift. That was our dinner time. And, you know, 3 different uniforms. And we were all equals. You know, there wasn't that stigma that I was better than them. We were friends. We were working together. But there are troopers that think that way. But you know what? Every agency has someone that is either standoffish or harder to get along with, and we were no exception. But I always tried to break that mold that we're better than anyone else. My father-in-law told me a long time ago, and by the way, he's a retired trooper. He said, if you're not working with other agencies, you're working against them. So I always took that to heart.
And that's not serving the public when you're doing that.
Exactly. No, I mean, there's enough work out there for all of us. I mean, this crime doesn't stop at a city limit sign or a county sign or even state signs. So we all have to work together and communicate. Otherwise, we can't be as efficient as we need to be.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that Mayor Gregory is a retired state trooper, and you know Jamie Land and you and it's hard still saying Mayor Gregory. I'm just saying Jeff. It's going to be a while before I call you Chief all the time.
You can call me Jeremy. I've answered to it for a long time.
So, but you mentioned those other 2 guys, and what has that meant for you into this role, and what has that meant for our city to have the mayor have a relationship with the incoming police chief, and the incoming police chief having a relationship with the outgoing police chief? What has that meant so far in this transition?
Well, I think it's been invaluable to me, I know. And I think if you ask the mayor that same question, he would echo that. Many times, a new chief, a new sheriff, even state police commissioners come in, and it's like a bad, rocky divorce. They're on their way out. The new guy's coming in. There's not a good checklist. Hey, do this, talk to these people. So that transition doesn't always look really good. It's not smooth, to say the least. And this was just the opposite. For the last 3 weeks, I shadowed Chief Land. The fact that we were good friends helped because we were comfortable with each other throughout the process. And he did everything he could to set me up for success. And I feel fortunate that I was able to do that. You know, the same could be said with the mayor. There's so much to do. There's so much with his job. There's so much to do with my job. Instead of having to build a relationship on top of all those other duties, we don't have to do that. We're already comfortable with each other. You know, it's not mayor and chief, it's Jeff and Jeremy. He needs me, he'll call me, and vice versa. So that part of it otherwise could be a problem for someone else that didn't know him, didn't have that relationship with Jamie, and they come in. So instead of being able to take advantage of that 3 weeks and get more accomplished, They had to learn each other. We didn't have to worry about any of that stuff.
You know, sometimes when you bring in somebody for a job, if they're from out of the area, you know, it's a fresh start. But when you bring somebody that is known, it can or cannot work. It's depending on that.
Right.
Leadership styles are different, but you had a relationship with a lot of different folks with the police department before you came in.
Yes.
So as you take over, I'm sure your leadership style is maybe a little different than Jamie Land's. Are you planning on making a lot of changes? Are you filling things out? What are you walking in? Just to give the citizens of this community a kind of feel of what you're planning on doing. What's your style going to be?
Well, first, I'm walking into a great situation. You know, everything that I've seen and heard about our department has been overwhelmingly positive. The support that I've received, on a little side note, has been humbling and overwhelmingly positive since I've been here. It's just been really over the top from what the community has reached out since the announcement. But coming into a department that's already operating at such a high level, there's not anything that's just this glaring, got to change that, got to fix that. Jamie and I are different people. Anytime you have a new leadership changeover like this, you're going to see some changes. And I know there'll be changes. To say what at this point, I really don't know. I'm looking forward to meeting all of our employees. I think there's 73 down there, sworn in civilian right now. So by the end of June, if I can know all the names of all the employees down there, I'll feel like the first month was a success.
Hey, you, what are you doing? You?
Yeah, and then, you know, kind of looking down. Luckily, at least over half of them wear name tags, so I've got a head start on some of it. We might put the "Hello, my name is" stickers at the front and use those for a little while.
But you got Chris Denham there, so there's no guarantee that's actually going to be their real name.
Well, and that's the thing. He would be the person to have everybody switch name tags, and then about 2 months in, say, "Hey, by the way, we've been messing with you." And so I've got to check rosters and unit numbers and look at all that to make sure I'm calling the right names.
So when you get to know those folks, then so you're filling out your team in a way.
Yes,
You
exactly.
kind of know what everybody's strengths and their weaknesses and what their improvement areas could be.
And that's a two-way street. I want them to know me. You know, they need to feel comfortable with the new chief. Jamie had been at that department for 21 years. So when he succeeded Chief Schiller, there was a level of comfort. I'm sure, you know, I've not asked him, but I'm sure there was a level of comfort because they already knew him. You know, maybe it was different because he was now the new head of the department, but there was that level of, well, that's Jamie's still our chief. You know, Jamie's still in-house. And I come in and had a relationship with several of the officers through working with them over the years, but there's not that same level of comfort. So I want them to know me. I want them to know who my family is, you know, what my priorities are on my personal life, because that will guide me on my professional life. Yeah. And when we get to know each other this first couple of weeks, these first couple of months, hopefully they'll be at ease and not people fear change, you know, not just in law enforcement, but especially in law enforcement.
Right, and you know, change is not always bad. I think sometimes you got to get past that initial shock of the change. Well, the initial shock of you going from gray to wearing blue. Right. I'm sure that, I mean, after a while, it becomes the norm. You know, people forget what you look like in gray.
Well, and then, you know, one of the rumors going around, there was a lot of stuff going around. You know, we were going to change the uniforms, change the cars, go to campaign hats, because the hats are, everything is pretty much polar opposites when it comes to colors. And you
can control that in a way?
Sure.
Well, I guess if you have the mayor and the police chief or former state troopers, there could be some magic that happens.
Well, and we've let off some of our internal meetings when Jamie and I were both still there. You know, Jamie took full advantage of, you know, using that as a joke. He said, well, you know, Chief's going to come in here in a couple of weeks. We've already ordered new stripes for the pants and stripes for the cars and campaign hats. You know, and you see that look of apprehension on people's face, and then we laugh. And so it's been a good icebreaker for us.
Good. Now, you have an opportunity to work with other agencies when you're with the state police and your other role. And we'll talk about your career a little bit in a few minutes. But how is that going to help our community with you having a relationship with other agencies too? Because we all know crime does not stop at the city limits. Right. Crime does not stop in the county limits. How will that help with you already having a relationship with those folks?
Well, our surrounding areas are already professional law enforcement agencies. So if an outsider had come in, they would have had the ability to pick up a phone and call one of our surrounding agencies, whether it be within our county or a surrounding county, and ask for assistance, and they would have received that. No doubt. You know, I know the heads of our departments, sheriff's department, state police. I know that would have occurred. The difference is I don't have to pick up a directory. I don't have to pick up, the phone to dispatch and say, hey, can you get me a number to Chief so-and-so or Sheriff or the KSP post? I just pick up my cell phone and I'll call Matt or John or Jeff or Kenny. I call these people and say, hey, you know what? We need a little help on this. We just recently collaborated with Radcliffe on a couple homicides that they've had, and our folks, and there was no line between cities. They worked together. Now, it didn't occur in the city, but it could have easily have occurred because, to your point, criminals don't see city limit signs. They don't care. They're going to commit crimes regardless of where they are. So when that carryover occurs, it's absolutely necessary for us to be able to reach out to those folks. So I think that's the benefit to the city of E-Town, is that instead of having to develop those relationships, much like we talked about with the mayor, I already have those relationships in place. And I just reach out and make a phone call, and in a moment's notice, in a quicker moment's notice, we have those resources coming our way.
And it didn't go unnoticed by me that those agencies were represented at your swearing in too. They were all there, and I did see quite a few folks there that are going to help defend our community, which I think is a great thing.
If you don't mind, one of the partners
I do mind. This is my show. No,
so I'm going to take this. One of the things that I left out in that is our federal partners, and I say that because the last year I've been with the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Yes.
So I've had the great opportunity to work with Mr. Russell Coleman, who's our U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Kentucky. So in a moment's notice, if we had something with a federal nexus, whether it be a terrorism nexus, whether it be a violent crime, because there's different federal laws as opposed to state, I can make a phone call to the FBI, the ATF, DEA, all of our federal partners in a moment's notice, the same way that I could with our local partners, and have those federal resources coming down this way. As a matter of fact, did just that yesterday with ATF on one of our investigations, where I felt like there might be a little ATF nexus where they could help us. So I put one of our detectives in touch with an ATF agent, and just from previous relationships, trying to bridge those gaps. So I think that's a value added to our community, because there are certain times when state laws maybe aren't the best approach to getting a violent criminal off the street, but we can reach out to our federal partners, and they can have a little bit better success on some of their sentencing guidelines if we are able to reach a conviction. So just some of those things that I've worked with that I hope will benefit our community.
And maybe it's a case that could be a connection of something they've worked on, and so now you've got a bigger team working together.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to the beginning, not to your birth and all that stuff. I don't want to go that far back.
That's a long time
I don't know how long we want this video cast and podcast to be, but law enforcement. Did you always want to be in law enforcement?
As long as I can remember, yes.
There was like no other job. For me, growing up, I wanted to be either a firefighter or a radio personality. And then once I figured out that firefighters have to climb ladders and I don't like heights, I knew the whole radio thing would probably be a better option for me. So from the get-go, you wanted to be in law enforcement.
If I ever wanted to do anything else, I don't recall what it was.
Okay. What really kind of pushed you towards law enforcement?
Well, I grew up in southern Jefferson County, PRP community. And
remember, we don't talk about
I know,
that.
I had to
I'm a Fairdale boy. That whole PRP. We're lucky we're even in the same room. But anyway, besides that.
So going to the state fair, you'll remember, we didn't have a lot of exposure to the state police in the Louisville area, those PRP Fairdale area, except during the state fair. And as a knucklehead teenager running around the fair, I just watched the troopers and I thought, man, they just commanded, in my opinion, back then, they commanded a different type of respect from the crowds that were up there. And people they saw troopers walk by and they turned their heads and they looked, and I thought, you know what? That's pretty cool. That's what I want to do.
So was it Midway or Safety Town that got you?
No, not Safety Town. The tricycles never got my.
You said they impressed you and you saw the power. I didn't know if it was the tricycles.
It was usually around the beer tents, watching all the chaos.
Okay.
They brought calm to the chaos.
I'm feeling you now.
Now, if you want,
because I was going to get you a tricycle.
No, ask the mayor, because as a public affairs officer, when he was with KSP,
he's got all kinds of tricycle stories.
He's not going to be real happy with me bringing this up, but he can probably tell some good tricycle stories.
There are only thousands of people that watch this video and listen to this podcast, so nobody will bring it up.
Yeah, please do. Someone please bring it up.
Because he worked a lot of years at Safety Town.
I've thrown him under the bus, but now the metaphorical tricycle, so he's been thrown under both.
So walking the Midway, seeing the pool, and I get that, because when you see the state troopers, I'm thinking Thunder over Louisville this last year, they were in a force of 3, 4, 5 together. It was kind of a commanding thing, and I mean, you walk by the DJX boombox. I mean, you didn't want to be a DJ because there was a big giant boombox.
I do remember DJX, but no.
Okay.
I have a face for radio, but not a voice for radio.
I've got a face for radio and a voice for newspapers. So that's why I do podcasts and video casts. So it wasn't Safety Town. It was that. And then were people from your high school? You went to Holy Cross.
I did.
So people from your high school, were they surprised after you graduated that you ended up as a state trooper?
Yeah, I think everyone would probably be surprised. I was not. I wasn't a bad kid, but I wasn't the kid that was in class that they would say was the model student. Let's put it that way.
So it wasn't like most likely to be a state trooper was not in the yearbook.
There was probably some most likelies, but not most likely to be a trooper or any of those things. I made decent grades. I played sports, but I went through kind of middle of the road.
Right.
I guess.
Well, we all go through that phase, right?
But I was a knucklehead. That's
okay.
probably the best description that we can give on air.
Okay, we can go with that. So your law enforcement resume, did you go straight to the State Police Academy?
No, actually, I looked at it to find out what I needed to do, and the requirements basically pointed me towards the military, and I went 4 years active duty in the Air Force.
Oh, so you've worn blue before?
I have worn blue.
Okay.
I've worn the hat.
Okay.
I've done all this. It's been a long time.
Oh, okay.
So people think it's completely foreign. It's just,
It's not.
as an 18-year-old kid,
to your career, you've got the blue, the gray, and the blue.
That's right.
Okay. So then off to the state police.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think that you would be a chief of police of a city?
Never, not one time. As a matter of fact, when I retired from KSP in April 30th last year, cleaning out my car, cleaning out my desk, got a couple of really good friends, a lot of good friends that are troopers, but one in particular, it's a neighbor. So I was telling him, I said, come over to the garage sale. I gotta get rid of all this stuff. I'm not storing it. I'm out of law enforcement. Here you go. And I've had to call him a couple of times and say, hey, remember when I gave you that? Well, give it back.
Yeah, can I buy it back?
I really and truly, when I retired, I had no intentions of getting back into law enforcement, active law enforcement. I was the law enforcement coordinator at the U.S. Attorney's Office. So I was in a liaison role, but not sworn law enforcement, not doing law enforcement responsibilities. And it never crossed my mind. And a lot of that really was because when Jamie was here, this department has such a great reputation. I've said many times.
Yes.
And Jamie being an internal officer, when he got to the role of chief, I expected him to dig in and be here for years.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of one of those things that I was happy for him, but never considered this to be an opening, especially just a year into my retirement from KSP.
So where was the moment of, I think I'm going to put my name in the hat for that?
Well, a couple things had to take place. I live just outside city limits. I'm in Hardin County and have been for the last 20 plus years. My wife and I love Hardin County, love E-Town, wanted to raise our kids here, but we were just outside the limits. And initially there was some restrictions, had to be in there, and then that changed. And when that changed, it's kind of, all right, well now I've got to make a serious decision here. So prayed about it, talked with my wife about it, even talked with the kids, and are you guys comfortable with this? My kids joked and said, Dad, we didn't think you'd stay out this long.
Oh,
so
wow.
They must have seen it coming, even though I genuinely didn't. And I made a pros and cons list, and I started to look at it, and really, I couldn't. The additional stress, coming back into the law enforcement leadership side of things, there's a certain amount of stress that goes with that. And that was really the only con I could think of. And I had this list, and I was looking at it, and it got to the point where there's no way I can't at least apply for it. So I did.
So why do you love it so much? Why do you think you love law enforcement? I mean, enough that you retired from it to come right back.
I truly enjoy helping other people. I think early on in my career, it was more about me. I was as a young trooper, you get out there and you're given this tremendous responsibility to police, and I wanted to take people to jail, but it was because they were bad and I was supposed to do that. It wasn't as much the service oriented. It was there, but as a young trooper, I didn't see it. When I became a supervisor within KSP, I started to see our true intent, what we were designed to do in law enforcement. And I enjoyed that role of leadership in law enforcement. And I progressed up through the ranks with KSP. And then when the leadership role came here, obviously as chief, I thought, I felt like I had enough knowledge throughout my career that I could help young officers in our department. And then, again, the community, E-Town's a great city. The police department's well respected. Working for the mayor, you want to work for someone that you respect, that you have a great deal of admiration for, and I can't say enough good things about Jeff. So all those things lined up, and I thought, man, this is just a great opportunity. How can I pass it up?
Yeah, and it is. I mean, I've mentioned numerous times, it's always a disclosure, I am part of the Elizabethtown Police Foundation, but I have, even before then, I've had a chance to work with and be around our police department, and people ask me about, why I do that, because legitimately our agency is an amazing agency here in Hardin County. I mean, having the EPD is just a great group of folks, and Jeff Cross and Radcliffe, a great group of folks.
Yeah.
Kenny Mattingly, his crew in Vine Grove. I mean, we are blessed with that.
No, I couldn't agree more.
It's great, and and I would love to see you be put out of a job in a good way.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's ever going to happen, because this is not Mayberry. We know that. Now it's not a crime-ridden city. Because I don't want to mention the city and then get busted about that.
Yeah.
But we do have our struggles, and I think there are people that have blinders on to know what goes on around here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a lot of interstates that connect here, and there's a lot of criminal minds that come through our community. So it's good to have you guys you focus on that. I know you guys spend a lot of time watching out for that.
We do, and there's a criminal element anywhere you go in this country, in this state, because you have people. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain amount of people that they would prefer to not go by the rules. They would prefer to be addicted, to steal, to make their money in ways where they're not paying taxes, they're pushing dope, or they're stealing things. And there's just certain people that you're not going to change. And that's that criminal element. Then you have, even worse, in my opinion, people that prey on our children and our elderly, whether it be through sexual crimes against children, financial crimes against our elderly, and those are the most vulnerable two groups in our community, the ones that can't defend themselves. And there's always going to be an element that will pick on those two groups. And if everything else got squared away somehow and drugs became no longer a scourge of society, which would take away the majority of your thefts, you're still going to have that element that picks on your young and your old. And we need to be there. But at the same time, you brought it up, we are a nexus for the Western Kentucky Parkway, the Bluegrass Parkway, I-65, Lincoln Parkway. Everything runs through E-Town. All those interchanges are right there at the 91 and 93.
Yeah.
So you have people outside our community that, they know where we are. They're going to bring that poison through our community, and we just have to stop them from doing that.
Got to be there and fight it. So it's a tough job. I mean, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, you know that. So what do you do in your free time? It gives you a chance to kind of brag about being a runner a little bit, because I know that is probably something you do. If you're like me, you do that because it is a good stress reliever.
Oh, absolutely. I run a lot. My son is just graduated high school, and he's going to go to U of L, but he does a lot of the high school fishing tournaments. So we fish a lot. And that's year round, which is miserable in January and February when you're fishing. But spend a lot of time on the water. I golf, just a lot of things outdoors. I'm not an indoor person. I don't like television.
Well, you've already got a tan, and it's June, so yeah.
That's that running. You get out there and you put some miles in running. And I haven't golfed as much as I'd like to this year, but I'll get there.
Yeah. So I know family's important to you because your wife runs with you all the time as well.
Does.
So you guys do a lot of stuff together.
We do. Our family's very close. I have two kids, Tyler and Lauren. Until he graduated, bookends in high school. And now he's going to University of Louisville next year, and our daughter will be a sophomore. But we're always doing something. They're both very active in sports, whether it's been fishing, baseball, and basketball with him until he got injured. Our daughter's volleyball, softball, basketball. It's always
so.
Something.
If you're not in uniform, you've got your butt in a lawn chair, probably at the side of a ball field.
No, because I can't sit. I have too much energy.
You're one of those dads. You're the
I'll
stroller
carry the
guy.
chair in, and Karen will sit in the chair, and then I just walk up and down the fence. Or many times I coach.
The roamer dad.
I have coached every sport that they've played, I think, except probably volleyball. Okay. At some point, I'm the boat captain for my son on the fishing side of things. Coached him in baseball, coached him in basketball at every level. I coached high school basketball at North Hardin Christian for the boys. Now I do that for the girls.
Okay.
I've coached my daughter in softball. So I think the only thing that I probably have not coached with either one of them at some point is her volleyball.
So you're going to continue with the basketball coaching?
I am. I got out a couple years ago on the varsity boys side of things. Just needed a break. You know, I'm doing all that in addition to state police back then, and then our daughter decided she wanted to play basketball, and coincidentally, the girls varsity coach at North Hardin Christian stepped down, so they called me and said, "Hey, you know, would you be interested?" Well, I was already going to be at the games watching her, so it just kind of made sense, and we married that thing back up together.
I was already going to be at the games. Like, there's not a lot of extra invested time.
Yeah,
I was already going to be at the games. Yeah, we never practice or anything.
So that's how I broke it to my wife. And, you know, but she knows me, and she knows how much energy I have. But I'm putting that energy back into our community, back into that school, back into my family, because I'm with my daughter, and then my wife, obviously, she's going to travel with us to those games. So it's just, for us, we made the decision a long time ago that as parents, we'll invest in our kids, we'll invest in our family. We'd rather look back one day and say, how did we fit all that in, as opposed to saying, why didn't we fit more in?
Good point.
So that's just the decision we made a long time ago, and I don't know what we'll do when they're gone, because I can't remember what it was like to not be involved with some type of sporting event.
Now, we're going to see a lot more runners from the Elizabethtown Police Department, or are you going to force that on them? Or?
Well, I won't force it on them. We have a PT program.
Encourage them.
But I will encourage them to sign up for some runs with us. You know, there's already a few guys down there. We have one guy down there that does, Kelly Tipple, he does the ultra run.
Kelly is a machine, yes.
He just signed up for a 120-mile run in Florida later this year. And then Matt McMillan, I met both of those guys, actually not in law enforcement, but maybe Matt, but more so down at Running Souls.
Yeah.
Running down there. Of course, see you down there. I've met a lot of great people down there, and everyone's welcome. So if I can get a few more of them down there, be glad to do it.
Now, if you're wanted by the police department, I wouldn't come to the run group.
No.
Oh, no, actually, yes, please come to run group.
If you come down there, we'll find you a place to stay after the run.
Exactly.
But there's several law enforcement represented down there, a couple state police in E-Town, and I think we've even had some sheriff's department guys come down there on occasion.
It comes in. But what I think is funny, I had to ask all this stuff because we've ran and I've heard some stories about your life and all that, but you're not on social media.
No.
What's wrong with you?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I mean, everybody. You're not even on MySpace.
There's a lot wrong with me, but not in the social media realm.
So why? Why don't you?
I don't have time for it.
Not at all? You don't want to know?
No.
You don't want to know a great recipe, or
No.
you don't want to see kids' pictures and know all the latest gossip in politics?
No, none of that.
None?
None of it interests me.
So how do you, let me guess, you're a Facebook stalker.
No.
Your wife has a Facebook and you log on and you look and then you go off?
No, none of that. I think I've mentioned to you before that twice a year I would try to get on her page during the anniversary and birthday of her and put a picture and put a message out there, but she didn't like me doing that, so she changed her password. So don't have it. They're not installed. The apps aren't on my phone.
There's no interest.
There's
so
no
even
interest.
now in your new job, you're not going to?
No.
You do realize you have two officers. I'll give their initials. John Thomas and Chris Denham. I don't want to sell them out, so I'll just give their initials. They're very regular on Facebook and have a lot of fun with the police department's Facebook and social media, Twitter, Instagram pages. And you don't really care to
So
know?
about 3 weeks ago, when it became official that I was going to be Jamie's successor, my wife, she knows, she is on Facebook, and she would see some of those things. She said, "Look what these guys are doing." So she'd show me her tablet or laptop, whatever, and I'd look and I'd say, "Oh my goodness," and just kind of look and shake my head. But if there's something out there I need to know, someone will bring it to my attention.
Yeah.
But I have the utmost confidence in both of them that they'll represent the department well. They don't need my help. I couldn't offer them any assistance anyway, so I'll let them do their thing.
That's another one of the benefits, and I hate to brag on those two guys, their initials, again, John Thomas and Chris Denham, but they really are, for lack of a better term, a good cop, bad cop scenario. Because, John is always trying to be this, and Chris is always trying to be funny. But they really do, I think, shed the police department in a different light. They're real.
Sure.
When they get a scam call or just making jokes. I mean, it's okay to have a personality as a law enforcement guy.
Well, and I think it does help as well, because when people see them, they recognize them. And they're more willing to come up to someone that they recognize and talk to them. Whether it's just to say hello, whether it's to give a crime tip, or whatever the case may be, both of those guys are recognized in our community. But what they do is important, but I hope that all of our officers will be recognized in some sense, so that the people on third shift, the people on mid shift, someone will be comfortable to walk up to them and talk to them, because we don't want to be completely standoffish. You know, there's a time and place where it has to be all business. You know, for officer safety, there's going to be times when, to include me, we won't have a smile on our face. There's times when the situation dictates where you shouldn't have a smile on your face. There's a lot of negatives that come on the law enforcement side. But when you can be nice, be nice. I've said that for years. When I've done big security briefings, I used to tell guys, be nice until it's time not to be nice. And there's a time for both. You know, and you just have to know when that is. But Chris and John Thomas do a great job. I was with them this weekend for a Cops and Bobbers event, and I watched the kids and the families, the interaction that they have with them, and I was just able to sit back and watch all that. And they do an excellent job at what they do.
You spend a lot of time in the public. Or are you just going to be the wizard where you go in that corner office and hide out?
Oh no, that's not me. That's not my personality. Yeah. I was out there with them for the Cops and Bobbers event. I was helping bait hooks and help these kids catch fish. I love doing those things. I was always trying to be really involved when I was with KSP, whether it was a shop with a trooper or any of the programs that were done. I enjoy being involved with the community. That's part of that light bulb that went off many years ago, that it's more than just law enforcement. It's being involved and being relevant to those that you are out there protecting.
Yeah. All right. So hopefully people got to know you a little bit in this little conversation, because, I mean, you know, you were candid about a lot of stuff. So I want to get controversial. One last question.
Sure.
Red or blue?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up.
There is no, we're not going to beat around the bush, because I'm going to be like hardcore Geraldo Rivera investigative stuff here if we have to.
Our house is predominantly blue. However, our son, that we're very proud of, just earned a full academic scholarship to U of L Speed Engineering School.
Okay.
So since they are so graciously allowing him to come up there on a scholarship, I've told him that minus 1 day a year, I will wear University of Louisville gear to support him and an organization that has been so gracious to our family.
But
1 day a year.
That wasn't very convincing.
Well, I'm just telling you right now, there is a little bit of an exception that has to go on.
Right. You said 1 day.
1 day I won't wear it.
Okay.
And that's when they play in basketball.
Well, it's not a cuss word you can say when Kentucky and Louisville play.
I know, but when those two teams are playing
You're
in
not
basketball,
even saying it now.
I know, I'm allowing you to do that. I'm gonna straddle the fence on that one.
So you will support.
I've actually always supported University of Louisville when it comes to that, except when they play each other.
Right. You know, they're not playing each other today, so maybe you could say it like, "Go Cards."
I won't go that far.
See, I mean, that's not committed.
Well, I never said I was fully committed. I said
you said you really supported the institution that gave your son a full ride to speed school.
I partially support.
Man, I really wanted that audio cut. I really, truly wanted that audio cut.
I know what you're after. I'm not there yet. I don't want to alienate, half of our community yet either. So I've got a family, not a house divided, but a family divided. I have a lot of University of Louisville fans in my family.
Man, I really tried hard there.
I know.
All right, Chief.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for taking time, man.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on the new job. I hope we can sit down and have more conversations. I've got a dream of doing a podcast, A Cup of Joe with a Popo. I mean, you guys do the coffee with a cop, but I want Cup of Joe with a Popo.
All right.
Because that's real.
I like coffee. It just has to be hot and black, nothing in it.
We can do that. Right. We can definitely do that. Right. Chief Jeremy Thompson, Elizabethtown Police Department. I'm Greg Milby, Community Storyteller for Kentucky's Heartland. Thanks for watching.